Hey, Fling here with DFS Army, and this is your Week 11 Millie Maker review. We're looking at the winning lineup, what won it, what did top DFS pros do, what was winning other GPPs on DraftKings. So let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so over here on Fantasy Labs, we have the winning Millie Maker lineup. 232 points. You knew it was going to be a higher scoring week because we had some higher scoring game environments, specifically Detroit. There was a lot of slot stacks on top of the leaderboards, but they scored 52 points, and it was everyone getting involved. So you knew that Detroit stacks were going to be in the winning Millie Maker build, and that was the case. We had a Jared Goff double stack, the rare Jared Goff double stack. It's typically David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, but this was a week to be contrarian with it, and because the matchup was so good for the secondary. So Amon-Ra St. Brown got there, Jameson Williams got there, and it was one of those things where it was a great matchup for Jameson Williams, but also it's just like player studs. It's just look on paper, Jacksonville's a terrible team. And, they had a 30-point play team total. So, there was a great chance that Amon-Ra was going to eat two, specifically with Laporta out. So, what we got here, obviously, the double stack, Goff and Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams, all under 10% ownership. So, really good. There was another stack here, Devin Achane and Miami D. So, Devin Achane was the chalk in the Millie Maker, 36% owned. And he was stacked with Miami defense. So, this is a stack that still is prevalent in today's DFS landscape, running back plus defense. Estimate, it's kind of like, getting an A on the group project, not doing anything. He was in the lineup, but didn't do much. It was the Javonte Williams show. Breece Hall was in a great spot. He finally got there. They finally decided to run the offense through him. This was obviously a smash for him. Kendrick Bourne, direct leverage off of the Kayshon Boutte chalk, 1% owned. 18 points at 3,100. And then Taysom Hill was really the guy that you just had to have. Taysom and Amon-Ra both over 40 points, but Taysom at his $4,500 salary was over 10x the field here. Top leverage play on the slate, under 4% ownership. So really good lineup top to bottom. Contrarian, attack the right game environment. Had a lot of great plays. Really, I think the only miss was just Audric Estime fell into that trap, but it didn't really matter. So this was a really good lineup. And I'm going to take a look at some of these other ones that were in the top 10. We had a Jameis lineup with Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku. So I loved the Jeudy, the Elijah Moore, the David Njoku play because they were direct leverage off of Cedric Tillman. So, myself, I had quite a bit of these players with Elijah Moore. And this one had Jacobs. Love Jacobs on the slate as well. So I think that was a really good spot going against Chicago. Pretty good matchup. More Breece Hall. This one, Shakir got in. Juwan Jennings, loved the Jennings play. He ended up being a lot chalkier than expected, specifically in large field GPPs. And then, pretty much every one of these lineups, you're going to see Taysom Hill. Let's take a look at third place. More Jameis. This one was just +1. Jameis Winston plus Jeudy. Double tight end, Brock Bowers and Taysom Hill. Bowers smashed as well, but Taysom kind of just stole the show. And then, Puka was a really good play as well. So it was really close, right? So first place was 232 points, and we're seeing 231. So it was a really close slate in these top 10. So just fractions of a point between winning 25,000 and between winning a milli. This lineup, similar to the milli, except it had Davis Allen who got the 0. And that is just gut-wrenching because he even ran more routes than Parkinson. But Parkinson got the lone target. He got 0 targets. Parkinson got 1 and caught it for a touchdown. If that's Davis Allen there, this guy wins the milli with a really good lineup. Juwan Jennings, Taysom, double tight end, just Oh my gosh. 0 from Davis Allen. Just gut wrenching. That was Vegas. Vitzy. Let's see the only cool fish here. We got Goff, Montgomery, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So the rare Goff to Montgomery. Normally, if Montgomery is having a big day, Goff isn't. But in this scenario where they score 52 points, there's obviously going to be room for them both to eat at the table. Now, this lineup was kind of crushed by DeAndre Hopkins, which, that sucks because, 2 points back from the winning Millie Maker lineup, but DeAndre Hopkins with only the 5 points. It was Xavier Worthy day. Was really kind of surprised by the DeAndre Hopkins day, but nonetheless, next lineup here, we got Stafford to Kupp and Puka. So, it was like, if Puka's having a good day, maybe Kupp isn't, or vice versa. This matchup on this slate, it was both Kupp and Puka, and Kyron Williams is the guy that you wanted to fade. Now, this is crazy to me, and this is, when people say the Millie Maker is a lottery ticket, like it is, it certainly is. We look at this show and we look at DFS pros who have won it before, and it's just because they're so good at what they do, and they play 150 and they play so many of these slates that they're able to win it, sometimes multiple times. But a lot of times it's just the culmination of 150,000 different lineups, and you're going to get these ones that get lucky and make it to the top of the leaderboards. 2 backups, Zach Charbonnet and Amir Abdullah, but because it had Amon-Ra, Kupp, Puka, Taysom, just massive scores, from this double stack plus Taysom plus Amon-Ra, this lineup was able to get pretty close. Look how contrarian it was. 40% ownership, and that's because we got 2 backup running backs here. Just a really crazy lineup there. Now, this one was equally as crazy, and I love me an onslaught stack, but this is too much, because they scored 52 points, and this lineup got in the top 10, but it didn't get there. And it was crazy here so this is Jared Goff plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Jared Goff plus 5. I thought maybe there might even be restrictions on how many you could stack. I kind of thought the max was 4, but I guess not. And then you have another stack here between MVS and Taysom Hill. So, in fact, Goff plus 5 plus the defense. So you literally had 100% stacks in this lineup. There were no one-offs. 80% ownership. Just a few points behind, but crazy. I actually set a rule to not have Gibbs and Montgomery not even just setting a rule to not have them in the same lineup, but basically set a negative boost to not have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery in the same lineup for most of the time, because they both projected well, and they're probably trying to cram both of these guys in. And you can see neither one of them really had flames. Like, they were good as a one-off, but they're priced pretty closely, and neither one of them, hit 4x the value. So didn't quite get there, but loved them both as kind of an individual play. And, loved Amon-Ra, loved Jameson Williams. Obviously, that stack was pretty big. And also loved Brock White. Right. I thought he was a really good late addition to the value tight end pool that we had. So this was really good. And gosh, I wish I had a lot more Taysom on this slate. Just not nearly enough. We're going to finish here at Giant Squid. We're going to look at his MME strategy, but this one is Goff plus Amon-Ra. A lot of the same players. Noah Gray snuck into this one. Jonnu had an amazing day, 31 points, and then this one had the Aaron Jones stud that kind of crushed it. And this one, now I like Goff and Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra. Gibbs being the pass catching back, that I think that correlates really well. And, overall, I really like this lineup here with getting Juwan Jennings, getting Curtis Samuel. I thought he was good value on the slate. Double tight end with Brock Bowers. I prefer the double tight end a little better when one of the tight ends has a high ceiling, like a guy like Brock Bowers does. So, and apparently a guy like Jonnu Smith does in Miami. So you got 2 tight ends there with a high ceiling. And then let's take a look at Giant Squid. Now, Giant Squid won the Millie Maker, I think it was last week, if not 2 weeks ago, and continually is one of the top DFS players in the world right now. I basically won everything last week, and was close again. Top 10, 3, 6, 9, 10th place. Jared Goff, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams. So very similar to what took it down, the winning stack. The biggest difference here is AJ Barner had AJ double tight end, but as opposed to Achon, had Barner there with only 3 points. So it was very close, but, a little bit 3 points off from winning it again. There was a lot of double tight end from what I was looking at earlier. A lot of double tight end. There was some QB +2. You can see, and this is crazy too, Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill in the same lineup. Probably just, letting it run, just letting the optimizer do its thing. This was same thing here. So that seemed to be a lot of these top lineups, both Juwan and Taysom. We're seeing a lot of QB +2. I believe there was some QB +3 as well. There it is. Jameis, Judy, Tillman, and Njoku. So, a lot of pretty high scoring lineups here. 190s, 200, 229 with this top lineup here. And not surprising from Giant Squid. We know what kind of DFS Pro Giant Squid is. Now, this is something I've noticed about Giant Squid, and this is why we like to study these DFS pros, see what they're doing, is never really has a quarterback that's like over 20% exposure. So plays a lot of quarterbacks, 14. And, the highest one being Jameis at 13%, Darnold, Geno just behind, Aaron Rodgers, and, didn't have a ton of Goff. So was really close. Top lineup was Goff, but only 3% Goff, and that's really all it takes. Just getting the proper mix of quarterbacks, that's certainly one way to do it, to get, a little bit of everyone, so that one lineup makes its way to the top. And, I found this to be a little interesting. Was a little under on Christian McCaffrey, and that's kind of one of the things I think is just positive expected value. When you have a high-priced running back like Christian McCaffrey, who's chalk, even in a great spot, not exceeding that ownership, being a little bit under, seems to be the proper mix to, get one of these lineups, have a shot at taking down the tournament. Same thing here you see with Devin Achon. Now, he was significantly cheaper than Christian McCaffrey, so I liked him better and, probably wanted more of him, but kind of the same idea, being not a full fade, but being under just a little bit on these higher priced chalk running backs. Now, where he kind of burned himself was Audric Estime, and it was just Sean Payton shenanigans. He lies. He's hard to trust. They went to Audric Estime in week 10. He looked really good, and you thought maybe there's a changing of the guard, and then they went right back to Javonte Williams in week 11. It was almost like they did it to just kind of give Javonte a wake-up call, like, you could lose this job if you don't start running harder. And it seemed like it worked because he ran really hard yesterday. But, that obviously was bad ownership there. And, love the Breece Hall ownership. That's really like a great spot to be over the field, right? Only 7%. He had 25%. Likes Ramondre. He didn't get there, but, wasn't terrible. And then it was just a little bit over on Kamara. So that was good, not having a ton of Kamara exposure. No running backs over 25%, and that's another thing I've been seeing with Giant Squid is does not go high on the running backs, does not go way over the field. Maybe sure, like on a guy who's 7% owned, 25% is way over the field, but doesn't have the type of exposure like 40, 50% to where if that running back fails, it's going to be very hard to win the tournament. and plays a lot of wide receivers as well. So I counted like 32 wide receivers. Now, liked the Vele value as the number 2 in the offense, and Sutton was chalk, so that makes sense. In fact, looking for Sutton exposures here. Had a little bit of little Jordan Humphrey and 11% Sutton. So was basically, I'm going to fade that Sutton chalk and get direct leverage with Vele. Also was under on Pickens, was under on Tillman, was under on Jennings, wanted to be over on Jennings. But, depending on ownership, like, it was hard to tell that Jennings was going to be this highly owned in the Millie Maker because the ownership projections I was looking at did not think he was going to be 27% owned. So I'm wondering if Giant Squid had the same issue, was, thinking he'd be over the field or even with the field, and ended up being under. So that certainly could have hurt. It's really sometimes difficult to figure out. You could have the majority of ownership projections correct on a slate, but sometimes it's that one player where you just don't know. And that ended up being the case with Jennings. And obviously loved Juwan Johnson, loved Taysom Hill. So just love the tight ends for the Saints. And Ingram with Mac Jones, AJ Barner, there was value. And, wanted to see what did he do with Davis Allen, faded Davis Allen, faded Knox. So basically faded the tight end chalk and decided I'm going to leverage the field by playing Juwan Johnson, playing Evan Ingram, playing Taysom Hill, playing AJ Barner, Hawkinson, double the field there. And really where it worked out, obviously, was the Taysom Hill, almost 20% ownership to Taysom, who was 3% owned. And that is how he went ahead and placed 20th in the Millie Maker. So one thing I want to take a look at here real quick, this guy has won the Millie before. So, and I saw Royal Pain place top 100, just outside the top 100. Yeah, so I wanted to take a look at Royal Pain's exposures. Actually, DFS Army VIP knows Royal Pain. So, by the way, it was a great week for DFS Army VIPs. I wanted to quickly go over this. It is a week in review. We like to show DFS Army wins as well. So, just a couple quick wins here. Look at this. Great, unbelievable ROI, $59 in 4,400 in winnings. First place in the Engage 8, 226, almost, but won the Millie. And, 2 points ahead of everyone else. So really good stuff. And then we had Hall D with a 230 score, first place, 10K. This was Goff, Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Looks like it had Breece Hall here as well. Jacoby Myers, Judy, Westbrook Akine. That guy just catches touchdowns every time the ball gets thrown his way. Not a lot, but enough to catch touchdowns at least. And then Jonnu Smith, so 10K. Great job. Shout out to the big wins, DFS Army VIPs this week. And if you want to join us, get access to all the tools that we use, the research station, the cheat sheets, the projections, the domination station, everything. Use code FANTASYFLING, get you 10% off a VIP subscription. I'll put that link in the video description. And by the way, if you guys like these breakdowns, let me know. Comment, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for all the other DFS content coming your way. Not just NFL, but NBA, NHL. Those guys are crushing it over there, so make sure you are subscribed. So Royal Pain's top lineup was Jameis to Judy to Elijah Moore. So no Tillman in that lineup. Achon, David Montgomery, Juwan Jennings, Taysom Hill, and Kyron Williams. So it was a Jameis to double stack with a Taysom bring back. So love that. And gosh, just crushed by Kyron Williams. A beautiful lineup here. And I had a Kyron and Rams stack, but if you would have had Cup or Puka, that would have been probably a winner, actually. Now that I think about it. So yeah, this was really good top lineup here. And then second was like 800th place. Let's take a look at exposures. So really like Jameis. Liked Purdy. So yeah, like 50+% of the exposure right there between those two quarterbacks. I loved Purdy as well. It was a great spot for him, but gosh, they're just not the same team. I mean, they had a 27-point implied team total, and they were way below it. And really, you can score on Seattle, so it's just very disappointing. And obviously, had too much Kamara, right? So 35% was 20+% the field, and he bombed. Loved the Montgomery and Gibbs plays here. So, and that's just what's hard about DFS. Like, you can have so many right calls. Jameis, Montgomery, Gibbs, but you had Kamara. That hurts you. You had Christian McCaffrey. So really need to fade both of those guys. And, that's certainly not going to do it. So 18 running backs total. Now, under on Chubb, under on Hunt. I liked these fades. Under on Kyron Williams as well. I liked the Bijan fade, honestly, as well, going against a really good Denver defense. So, Chubb, he isn't quite right. I think the injury is not going to be recovered this year. He was already losing snaps to Jerome Ford. So it's just probably not going to be his year, but, maybe buy low for next year. And then Kareem Hunt, he had been running really hot, and I definitely didn't think he was going to continue that in that spot on the road. And then too much Debo. So I get the play. He was low owned. Kittle was out. You thought maybe they might manufacture more touches for him. Maybe use him more like the New Orleans Saints used Taysom Hill, but they didn't. So, a lot of really good plays here with Elijah Moore and Judy, and actually did have a lot of Tillman, but mainly because he played so much Jameis Winston, but still was able to get enough Elijah Moore and, be over the field on Judy. Good play here on Jennings. Really just a couple running backs kind of killed him. And, having this much Debo Samuel exposure, but overall was a pretty good, slate as far as like all the calls that were made. Like a lot of really good calls. However, faded Amon-Ra, faded Jameson Williams. So those calls definitely kind of burn him as well. And I always like to see what a lot of top players are doing with the value chalk wide receivers. Kayshon Boutte, a little over the field there. Had some Puka. And I'm not seeing, let's see what he did with Allen. Davis Allen. So just even with the field there. Liked Barner, liked Henry, had a good amount of Taysom. So that's how that top lineup gets near the top of the leaderboards, the top 100 at least. Tennessee, thought that was a good spot against Minnesota at 2,300 because Tennessee has a good defense and Sam Darnold's just been terrible. So that was a pretty good play, pretty decent for Royal Pain. Top 100 for sure, but not quite nearly as good as Giant Squid or any of the other top 10 finishers in the Millie Maker. But let's look at a couple other contests, see what won some of these, like smaller field contests. Now, it's pretty interesting too, because in a contest like the 555, this is going to be full of DFS pros and just really sharp DFS players. As you can see, some of these names I'm sure you've seen near the top of the leaderboards many times. So even though it's only a 400-person contest, a lot of these guys are so sharp that you'll see it's not – the score isn't as low as you would think it was for a contest of only 400 versus the Millie Maker. And, like I said, a lot of that is just because of this is a pro contest, essentially. So this was a Winston to Judy to Njoku lineup, faded that Tillman chalk. Same idea, kind of burned here by Audric Estime, but as far as the lineup goes, was still the top scoring lineup in a contest of 400. So, you had Taysom Hill. He was the guy that you had to have, obviously. You could see it here. This is a contest with 400 people, and Taysom Hill was in it. So, 3% owned. That's enough. And this was a fabulous lineup with, the Jameis double stack, the Taysom Hill bring back, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, Breece Hall. So just really crush it. 220 points. Let's see. Let's take a look at what won the flea. Now, I think what won the flea was between, it was probably like 229 or something like that from what I saw. 236. So isn't this something? This guy wins the flea. Now, this is just a variance in DFS. 59,000 entries versus 147,000 in the Millie Maker, and actually posted a higher winning score than the Millie Maker by about 4 points. So I'm guessing absolutely smoked second place. Yeah, more or less. But even second place had a higher score than the Millie Maker, which is crazy. So it's just variance. But Stafford, Cup, Puka, and Rams D had Ashawn Montgomery, Curtis Samuel, Jonnu, and Taysom Hill. So Taysom was the gotta-have-it guy. Surprising that Amon-Ra was not the gotta-have-it guy for the nut score, but Taysom was. And I think it's just because Amon-Ra was, 8K. And obviously, $4,500 Taysom Hill, 46 points. That is 10x. So just really crush it. I mean, you got 1, 2, 3 guys over 30 plus points here. 83% total ownership, 236 points. So really good to see. It was a great week, and we'll continue to research the past weeks, and as we look forward to the next week. And like I said, if you guys like this kind of content, hit that like button while you're here. And that's going to do it for another week in review. We'll see y'all next time. Sheesh.